Alright, let's talk about loneliness, but not the way you'd expect. Because here's the thing, loneliness doesn't always look like some dude sitting alone in a dark room, you know? Nah. Some of the loneliest people you'll ever meet, they're out there. They go to work every single day. They laugh in groups. They reply to texts. They post on Instagram like everything's fire. And that's what makes loneliness so messed up. It hides. It hides inside a totally normal life. Like, you could be looking at someone and thinking, they've got it together. And inside, they're feeling completely invisible. Because loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling alone even when you're surrounded by people. It's that gut feeling that nobody actually sees you. Nobody really gets you. Nobody knows what's going on inside your head. And in a world where everyone's supposedly connected 24/7, more people feel emotionally alone than ever before. Sounds crazy, right? But psychologically, it makes total sense. We weren't built for endless surface-level interactions. We weren't designed for followers, notifications, small talk, or people reacting to our highlight reels. We were built for real belonging, actual emotional connection, the kind where you don't have to perform. And here's the deeper problem: most people don't even realize how lonely they've become until it starts changing who they are. Yeah, loneliness doesn't just mess with your feelings. It messes with your behavior, your confidence, your decision-making, your self-worth, your social energy, even the way you see reality. And when it lasts long enough, it becomes part of your identity. That's when it gets dangerous. At first, it feels temporary, like, oh, I've just been busy. Or, I drifted from some friends. Or, I moved to a new city. No big deal, right? But over time, something subtle happens. You stop expecting connection. And here's the wild part: humans adapt to emotional environments super fast, like scary fast. Your brain just starts treating emotional distance as normal. You talk less, share less, trust less, reach out less, and eventually, isolation starts feeling safer than vulnerability. That's the trap. Because loneliness creates this psychological contradiction, the more disconnected you feel, the harder it becomes to connect again. Social anxiety spikes, overthinking goes through the roof, fear of rejection becomes huge, and even texting someone back starts feeling emotionally exhausting. And this is where most people totally misunderstand loneliness. They think lonely people just need more friends. Nah, it's rarely about quantity. People feel lonely in relationships, lonely in families, lonely in crowded rooms, because the real pain isn't physical isolation, it's emotional invisibility. Feeling like nobody around you actually knows you. And modern life amplifies this feeling like crazy. Social media created this illusion that everyone else is connected, fulfilled, attractive, and socially killing it 24/7. So lonely people don't just feel disconnected, they feel left behind. They scroll through thousands of posts where everyone seems happy, loved, and included, while privately feeling disconnected from their own lives. And comparison makes loneliness so much heavier, because humans naturally measure themselves socially. And when you believe everyone else belongs somewhere except you, loneliness turns into shame. And shame changes behavior fast. People start hiding parts of themselves, pretending they're okay, dodging honesty, dodging vulnerability, which creates even more emotional distance. That's why some of the funniest people you know are secretly the loneliest. Humor becomes armor. It's a shield. Some people become hyper-independent, like, I don't need anyone. Others become people pleasers because they're terrified of losing connection. And some just stop trying altogether, not because they don't want relationships, but because disappointment exhausted them emotionally. And look, repeated rejection changes people psychologically. If you feel emotionally unwanted long enough, you start expecting rejection before it even happens, and expectation changes perception. Suddenly, neutral situations feel personal, a delayed reply feels intentional, a cancelled plan feels like abandonment. Distance feels like proof that nobody cares. The lonely brain becomes hyper-alert to signs of exclusion. That's survival psychology. Humans evolved in tribes. Being excluded once meant literal danger, so modern loneliness triggers ancient psychological fears. And the scary part? Long-term loneliness affects physical health too. Stress goes up, sleep gets worse, anxiety rises, motivation drops, even confidence takes a hit. Because confidence is deeply connected to belonging, people become psychologically stronger when they feel emotionally supported, and weaker when they feel invisible. That's why loneliness quietly destroys self-esteem. Not all at once, but slowly. You start questioning your value, your attractiveness, your personality, your importance in people's lives, and eventually, loneliness becomes internalized. Instead of saying, "I feel lonely," people start thinking, "Maybe there's something wrong with me." That thought is dangerous because once loneliness becomes identity, people stop believing connection is even possible for them. And this is where things get really messy. People enter unhealthy relationships and friendships, not because the connection is healthy, but because loneliness lowers standards. Humans can tolerate disrespect when they're starving for emotional closeness, and toxic attention still feels better than emotional emptiness. And manipulators know this. Lonely people are easier to control because desperation weakens boundaries. This is why emotional healing matters so much, because unresolved loneliness can make you attach yourself to anyone who temporarily reduces the pain, even if that person eventually destroys you emotionally. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Some people are surrounded by others constantly, yet still feel deeply disconnected internally. Why? Because being emotionally understood and being socially surrounded are completely different experiences. So many people spend years performing versions of themselves they think others will accept. They become socially liked, but emotionally unknown, and eventually that creates exhaustion. Because humans cannot feel deeply connected while constantly hiding their real emotions, thoughts, insecurities, and identity, real connection requires vulnerability, but vulnerability is terrifying now. Modern culture rewards performance more than honesty. People carefully manage how they appear online, how they sound, how successful they seem, how attractive they look. But behind that performance, so many feel emotionally unseen. And honestly, this is why deep conversations feel so powerful today. They're rare. A real conversation now feels almost intimate, because most interaction has become shallow, distracted, and performative. That's why emotionally intelligent people value presence so much: real listening, real attention, real honesty. Because attention is one of the rarest emotional experiences in modern life. And loneliness isn't always solved by finding more people. Sometimes it's solved by finding people where you no longer need to perform constantly. People who allow silence without awkwardness, honesty without punishment, emotion without judgment. That kind of connection heals people psychologically.